Tommy, it's another one of those TrackDown episodes where we finally meet at the track. We did a Skype. I've been with Doug Fehan over Corvette way too long. Yeah, so we're going to talk about various things, not just Viper, and we'll get to that. But I got to start, before we get into all the car and racing news, you saw Ford launched a bacon Ford Fiesta.
Actually, I did not see that.
Okay,
What's going on here?
They've decided to be really cool and have the special edition tape stripe to add bacon to their car. You should be asking for royalties. Tell me about this chicken car.
Chicken car. Well, I mean, who doesn't love bacon? I guess, except those of us that don't eat meat. But the chicken car is my buddy, the big fella, El Gallo, which is rooster in Spanish.
How long have you had that?
I've had it. I bought him during my '97 Trans Am big season, actually.
And you still have it?
I still have it. He actually got blasted, rear-ended, totaled, parked on the street. And so we kind of did a $6 million man where we had to do a transplant of the vital organs, namely the head and the tail and so forth, onto a similar Oldsmobile.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can't buy replacement parts for the chicken car.
No, you can't. You can't.
So screw the bacon, we've got chicken, right?
Yes, and people say, you know, everyone's always said to me the chicken restaurant, this and that, and I'm like, my best buddy's a chicken. I'm not going to advocate eating them. It's like those Chick-fil-A things, you know. I want them to eat the cows or the veggies or whatever. So anyway.
Got it. So I had to give you that comment about the bacon thing and the chicken, but let's talk some of the car facts. And let's start with here at Baltimore Grand Prix. It's a street course. What's the smartest thing you'd say to a driver about how to drive a street course?
Well, I mean, the weird thing is, in theory, it's exactly the same as of course with a little bit of runoff, but in reality the penalty is immediate. And so even though if you run a foot wide at Elkhart Lake, it hurts your lap time, it doesn't end your race, whereas it does here. So the tough part is, even when it'd be like, it's no different than walking a straight line. It's easy to do unless it's a tightrope. And theoretically it's the same task.
But here, even in a GT car, you're low enough that you have to look through the corner or imagine it?
Sometimes you can. I mean,
right.
but the hard part is just committing, and you've done it enough to know that you should end up on this inch, and but really trusting that and committing to it fully rather than kind of part way is the difference between really going quick and not. And that's just approach. The important parts of street courses, optimizing your brake zones when you have runoffs and stuff, or no runoff. That's the tough part. So the guys that can consistently basically drive the same way, even though the penalties are bigger and more immediate.
Is this Viper handling the bumps and fitting this track?
Yeah, not bad. I think, the first couple sessions, guys were a little bit off where we want to be, and so obviously everyone's trying to figure out how much is this, how much is that, and how much is that. But the bumps, I think, one of our areas where we probably are a little deficient, as I've said before, is traction control, and that's always exacerbated by bumpy conditions. And so that's probably an area where we're maybe losing a little bit.
And we're going to move on quickly, but there's a huge wicker in the back wing. All about downforce in the back of the car to plant these things?
Well, yeah, a little bit, but sometimes I've found, more often than not, adding downforce, even if it's not perfectly balanced, it almost always helps the car go quicker. And so the wicker obviously gives more proportionally to the rear, but it tends to also make the underbody more effective, some of that stuff. And so even it plants the rear more, but it plants the whole car also.
All right, and bad segue, speaking of planting, let's talk pit lane etiquette. The IndyCar race out of Sonoma had all the controversy. Talk to me about the etiquette, because we're not going to challenge the call unless we want to talk that way, but there was the sense of, it felt like two guys challenging each other in terms of, this is my space, no, this is my space. What was really going on there? What's the etiquette?
Well, only one guy knows for sure what was going on, and that's the tire changer. And I haven't heard him speak. But it looked to me that was what was going on, which is why I think the people that feel that the penalty wasn't justified, that's sort of their opinion.
The tire changer was frankly protecting his space and making it difficult for Dixon to get out.
Correct,
okay.
Correct. And so, and some of the support going the other way says, well, he did it exactly the same way. The weird giveaway for me is how a guy that goes into a really dangerous environment is not paying any attention, or appears to not be paying any attention.
Do you think he was feigning that?
I think he was, because, again, only one guy knows, but it looked like to me that right when he got done, it looks like he looked right back at Dixon, and then once he got up, he put his head down and went into this. So it's a very close call. I think the fact that you heard Penske and Cindric both say, I don't know, it could have gone either way. I don't think it was clear cut. The fact that they weren't emphatic that it was the right call tells me, there could be something to that. the dangerous precedent is if you make it so no matter what that guy does, he's untouchable, then it opens up the door for all kinds of gamesmanship like that.
Which goes back to the basic question. It is typical in racing for everyone to make these moves to protect their turf, to challenge the other team.
You're going to push every single thing you can in every single way. You wouldn't be doing your job if you weren't, you know? So every single guy drove through the pit box in front of him to get out. You know, if that is the interpretation, then it behooves every guy to kind of go stand basically right on the edge of his thing and make him go around and draw the charge, if you will. So, you know, it's a loaded deal. I'm glad to see everyone fired up, to be honest, and arguing both sides of it.
Last question on this part. Do you think it'll make things worse, or was the line kind of drawn?
The drivers' meeting will be interesting in terms of what they say. You know, they're going to have to. I assume they're going to assert that it was the right call, but they're going to have to somehow say why this isn't going to lead to an escalation of similar guys doing a similar thing on purpose, more on purpose, and you know, it's such a gray area.
Let's stay with IndyCar, talk about Indy Lights. They're talking about bringing a new car forward for 2015. They've got an X-Infinity V8. Should a support series car for driver development be a logical technical extension of the end game, the number one car? Should they have a turbo in Indy Lights? How do you see a development series being most productive?
All those things might matter. All of those pale in comparison to the number one thing that matters the most is how can you make it cheap to run so that you guys can actually get in the series.
Yeah,
all those things are important, but really what they all pale in comparison in the first 5 on the list is how cheap is this car to run? How much money do you have to raise so that, because right now the ladder's got a bunch of broken rungs on it and we need to get those rungs put back together.
So those Mazda classes have a lot of cars. You get to Indy Lights, you got 8, 9, nothing. Got it. Okay. Last question about IndyCar. They're planning a road course test to evaluate running a road course, whether it's in May, whether it's before or after the 500. Your thoughts on Indy road course racing for the series?
I don't get it, or I don't get why that's, why that's something that report is where it seems to come from. Yeah. Why they deem that as so interesting. I usually can kind of, I don't get that at all. If it can be a big event, I think they should do it. There's not enough to indicate to me that it would be a big event. The track's not spectacular. I don't get why that would be a great move.
If they fixed the track, would it still be, what the hell are we doing? It's Indy?
I mean, you're going to have to compare it to everywhere else they could go. Okay. You know, is it going to be you're never going to make it an, oh my God, that's an unreal track. You know, I struggle for why that is important.
Talk about F1. I don't think they've announced any of the driver changes. They're hinting at things like Ricciardo at Infinity Red Bull Racing with seating and an ass too big to fit in an F1 car. But if you had your druthers, if you were a team owner, and I'm short enough to be a team owner.
And a driver, for that matter.
That's a long story. Where would you put someone like Kimi Räikkönen?
Well, I mean, if I'm an owner, I want him in my car. So, you know, the funny thing is, I like him at the Renault team, or the Lotus team, I guess. I like him there, you know, because I like him there. And he really is a different cat. I mean, I think as long as they can be competitive, which is a big if, they've surprised the heck out of me that they've been this competitive. You know, I like him in that car if they can keep going. Odds are they can't keep staying competitive, and you hear rumblings that they might not have the funding and so forth. At Red Bull, I mean, it would be really interesting to watch that dynamic, and to be quite honest, with a personality that's that interesting, what Red Bull could do with him. I mean, you're an interesting F1 driver if you haul ass like Vettel does, but let's face it, he's kind of dorky. So, you know, but Kimi, everyone's just fascinated. He's just like such a wild card.
Well, it seems like it's on brand. It seems like it'd be a good challenge. You'd learn a lot about a lot of things. But the options are rumored: Kimi back to Ferrari, Kimi at McLaren.
Yeah.
Would he fit McLaren?
I think he might, actually. You know, now that Ron Dennis is gone, it's a totally different organization. Okay. I mean, I guess he's still there in some capacity, but he truly is away from it, and I think it's a different organization now in that regard.
All right, without sounding arrogant, I'm going to throw you my suggestion. I want one comment, then we'll move on. So I expect Red Bull's not going to pull the trigger on Kimi. I would love to see Button in Ferrari with Alonso, the team, and stick Kimi over at McLaren.
I mean, I have no problem with that. Do you have any reason to believe that Button's going to Ferrari? Other than you just like it.
I just
You'd
don't
like
like it.
Okay.
I don't think he's the
So it's
type of,
fantasy draft.
it's a fantasy draft. It's,
Okay.
it's the mature master with performance.
Mature muscle with performance. Okay.
All right, last question. I don't know what to talk about USCR, and I know there's a bunch of stuff still percolating, but I'm going to approach it this way. So Nissan's going to go test and shake down their ZOD full electric car. Yet here we are in America talking about the balance of performance and the specs of a DP. Is USCR missing something in terms of this technology, or is Le Mans off on some tangent with all this electric stuff?
Well, I mean, it's different because Le Mans is once a year. You know,
Okay.
it's a different story, and I think I don't think you should be too rigid about it, but I don't think you can totally shift your whole model, for the latest shiny thing, And as we saw with Delta Wing was sort of a novelty. It resonated with enough people, it made sense and so forth, and now you see it. They found a place for it in the series. So, I mean, I think they need to sort of stay down the road they're going on, and they got enough challenges getting P2 and DP together, and then just see where it goes.
If you had to predict between the GTLM, GTD, P class, and I guess it's LMPC, you think we're going to have 50-50 GT cars and prototypes, or is one going to skew higher than the other?
I think we'll have more GTs and prototypes, but that's always kind of how it's always been. I think, what I always tell people is when I left Daytona this year after calling the race, unbelievable DP race, unbelievable GT race, and I said, we throw this battle into the middle of that and LMPC, it's gonna be nuts on the track, but it's gonna be great to watch, and so.
So I know you're hyper busy and gotta go. We're gonna do some race car prawn of the Viper. They've added 25 kilos, so you win your first race. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Add some weight. The car's still competitive?
I mean, yeah, we'll see. I mean,
Okay.
that's 25 kilos, 55 pounds is not insignificant,
No.
These cars, the Michelin tires are so good, the cars get faster every lap. You burn half a gallon of fuel, which is, 4 pounds shows up on the watch, and so that much, I mean, it works.
Can you put the weight anywhere?
Yes,
So
and actually, one of the places I wish we could show you, the front splitter, I was walking by it and we've got a brass little piece, and it looks like it's our gold tooth, it's our grill. And basically, having some mass low and in front where they wanted it, so it's in the car.
And these are the first cars built. We haven't evolved to the second generation of these yet.
No.
Will that happen next year?
That's a good question. I know
But you won't answer.
Well, I don't know that actually. They built. We had a third tub that went with us to Le Mans in case we needed it.
Yeah.
I suspect there's probably some minor tweaks to that based on what we learned. I don't know if they'll be like if it's worthy of a quote model change, like a B chassis.
Yeah.
I don't think that, but maybe they won't tell me.
Helmet time next time at Petit?
Petit, yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Go
Okay.
get him. Thank
Thanks.
you. Watch this. Yeah, there we go.